All right. Good night, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and thank you for supporting indie bookselling. We appreciate you all so very much, and without you, we couldn't put on great events like this one tonight. And speaking of tonight, we have some of our friends in publishing here. They're going to be recommending some of their favorite recent books, and we hope that you can find something to add to your to be read pile and maybe get some of your holiday shopping done early. So I'm going to introduce Rachel, our director of events, and she's going to take us away and introduce some of the lovely reps that we have tonight.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any comments or questions throughout the evening, you can use the chat at any point. I'm going to be posting also in the chat in just a moment a link to the blog post that includes all of tonight's recommended titles. So you can follow along there and use it for convenient shopping at a later date. For lack of a better organizing system, we're going to go in alphabetical order. So our first rep presenting this evening will be Emily Servone, who represents Chronicle Books. So welcome, Emily. Thank you so much for doing this. And let's hear about your great books.
Thank you so much. All right, everyone, I'm going to share my little PowerPoint I made. All right, so I have a little bit for everybody on this. One thing I like about what the books I sell is we don't just do adults or kids. I do adult, kids, and some gift items. I did not feature any gift items on here because I didn't want to. But the first book we have is this is one of our biggest books of the fall. It is called The History of Sketch Comedy, and it is by Keegan Michael Key, who you may recognize from the show Key and Peele. And it is the history of sketch comedy, but also a little bit of memoir of his life. This is based on this. He wrote this with his wife, and it's based on the podcast that they do together called History of Sketch Comedy. And it is for every kind of comedy fan, from people who like sitcoms to people who like sketch shows. And it also kind of teaches you how to do some sketch comedy, which I think is really great. It's getting some amazing reviews. It's been featured by like a ton of different comedians are in it, and they've also talked about it in on their own podcast, their own shows. But there's like interviews from Mel Brooks, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Mike Myers, Chris Rock, Tracy Morgan, Carol Burnett, which was very exciting to me, and even more than that. And it also has, I mean, it's very funny, but it has really great artwork throughout. It's a great read. It's a beautiful gift book. It's like a pretty big size, but it has a lot going for it. This is my particular favorite chapter because I love vaudeville stuff, vaudeville movies, all that kind of jazz. So that was my favorite chapter in the whole thing. And also some really great line art throughout. And it's really kind of perfect for anyone who really likes comedy, who's looking for something unique that they can give somebody, or just a good self-read themselves. Then we have for us cooking people, cookbook fans, Nick Sharma's newest book, Veg Table, which I think is one of the most clever titles I've ever read. When they announced it, I just was like tickled because I love a pun. We love puns here at Chronicle, kind of our thing. So this is all about it's all vegetable focused meals. And Nick Sharma doesn't just make recipes. There's science behind everything he does. So he actually won an IACP Trailblazer Award for this book, or not for this book, but for like combined the three books together. He looks at 50 vegetables, the history of the vegetables, the science behind them, why they work with our bodies the way they do. Plus, his feed has over 100 of his own photographs. So in addition to making these amazing, delicious recipes, he also takes all the photos as well, which I think is great. He's a blogger, but also a columnist. And then his cookbooks have been bestsellers. They're absolutely beautiful. They're really fun to use. And what I like about them the most is that he does what is called a cook through style. Instead of it being a list of ingredients and then step by step, you read it almost like prose. And I think this is such a great way to cook because you're forced to read the entire recipe before you even go shopping for ingredients, which makes sure that you have everything, but you know the process, what's going to happen, so you're not surprised. And because when you do these cook throughs, it does it in the order it's being done, in like the time you're doing it, is you're never done with something too early before the next step, or it doesn't take 6 times as long as you thought it would take. which I think is really helpful because I always take about 6 times longer to do a recipe than it says it's going to be, and it's very annoying. And so these are great, really keep you in a timely place when you have a very hungry family at home. And then he has really great cook notes throughout. And this is also the first book of pasta that features pasta recipes. He's never done pasta recipes before, so that's pretty cool. And it's just like everything's really delicious. I want to eat everything in this book, which I probably will eventually. I don't. I like vegetables. My husband does not, so this is a great book for us because it's making him eat vegetables on a more regular basis. And then for those crafty people, first of all, apologies if you don't like cursing, but that's part of her spiel. So this is Shitty Craft Club is a club for gluing beads to trash, talking about our feelings and making silly things. So author Sam Reese runs Shitty Craft Club TikTok out of her home in Los Angeles. And she has put together this amazing, hilarious book of real crafts that are just kind of gaudy and awful looking. But not only is it a guide for creativity, but it really actually helps you embrace your chaos and find the inner calm, as it says in the notes. And it's step by step. It's funny. There's stories throughout, so it has a memoir like feel to it, but it's also a craft book. I gave one to a bookseller who just like was over the moon about it. And like it's like I love the photography is bright. You know, she shows you comparisons of things to actual things that you would know, like a banana, so you have an idea of what these beads are supposed to look at like. Um, and there she is. She's adorable. And so, like, one of the crafts is you make a trophy, and then there's making a candle that looks like corn on the cob, which I thought was really clever. Um, and they're like all kinds of things, and almost everything in it is useful, even though it's kind of silly. So then for the people who really love graphic memoirs, this country is amazing. So it is about, I was a little hesitant about it because it's very rural America, and it is not Northeast rural America. It is not upstate New York. It is not Vermont. It is not New England in general. It is Idaho. And I was like, I grew up in the other kind of rural America, but I loved this book. So Naviad is a cartoonist for the New Yorker, and this is a story about him and his wife moving to middle of nowhere Idaho to live off the grid, um, right right after Trump's election. And he himself is a man of Middle Eastern descent, so he kind of was in this nervousness of moving in 2016, of moving to Idaho and being in a place where he didn't know what the politics were like, and he didn't know if he'd be accepted. And what's wonderful about this book is that it's funny, like you can see here. It's a funny book, but also he discovered that like people are genuinely nice people. He was really accepted in the community. I mean, there's a little odd things, but no one is ever mean. No one ever set him out, and it was a really good experience. And the only reason they left was they had a daughter, and he decided that he needed to be back in a place where she could meet people and make friends and stuff. But it's really fun. It's very funny. I like this part where he decides to go swimming in the creek. It is just it's LOL. I laughed a lot reading it. I really loved it. And you can see here that Jamie Lee Curtis tweeted about it, Instagrammed about it, and she loved it, thought it was beautiful, and it's gotten tons of reviews, star reviews, and there's an excerpt in the New York Times in early September. It's really good. I highly recommend it. So you can get that now. And then this Free People's Village is from Levine Corda, which is a children's publisher, but this is their first adult book. So this was an Indie Next pick, so we're really excited about it. You're going to see it in the store, definitely. It is by the founder of Trans Rights Readathon, Sim Kern, and it's an Eat the Rich climate fiction. So it's sci-fi, but it's definitely more realistic. But it's an alternate 2020 in which we've been fighting climate change for 20 years instead of terror, and it's still kind of terrible. We need to fight police brutality still, and corporate-owned media, and eco-fascism. And we have this white English teacher who's in a queer punk band living in a warehouse. And when she finds out the place she lives is going to be sacrificed for a highway to the suburbs, she teams up with the people in the area, and they fight to save the neighborhood. And it's a great, she has to face that she is a white person and she is in a predominantly Black place, and like what harm is she already doing? And then she has to decide if she's willing to sacrifice everything to pursue the justice of for this award. It's amazing. So it's a beautiful package too. It's absolutely gorgeous. It actually, the cover comes off and you can see here the Bunny Bloodlust is the band underneath. And then the poster folds out to be a protest poster. It is amazing. It's so good. You'll love it. Okay, now we're gonna do some kid stuff. I got about 5 minutes left. I got some kids books for you to be excited. So this is my particular favorite picture book that we have coming this fall, Go Go Guys by Robot Watkins. And this one's gotten tons of reviews, great reviews. And basically, Go Go Guys, what do they do best? They never rest because their brains go beep, 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 and they will not go to sleep. So I'm actually going to read this for you guys. Okay. We're Go Go Guys. We never sleep. Our Go Go brains go beep, beep, beep. We're tired of counting sheep and stars. We want to race around in cars and bulldozers and UFOs or anything that go, go, goes. Vroom, vroom, zoom, zoom, vroom, vroom, vroom. But how can Go Go Guys go vroom if they are stuck inside a room? Well, kaboom! I love this artwork. It drives me. Holy go-go, we are vrooming, buttons beeping, boosters brooming, and all the way around is strewn with twinkly, yikes, here comes the moon. Beep, 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 we're crashing soon. Perfect landing, engines roaring, vroom, 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 let's go exploring. Yoo-hoo, honk, honk, beep, beep, booping, smashing, bashing, loop-de-looping. Supersonic, boom, boom, booming, zooming, go-go guide. Stop. Stop vrooming. What are you doing on my head? You're way too loud. Blast off to bed. But Go Go Guys aren't wired for sleep. We're just not tired. Our brains go beep. Sorry, this was at an angle. We really don't like sheep. Beep, ba, 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 beep, ba, beep. Who wants to yawn at snoring stars? Next time, ba, let's go to Mars. And that is the end of that. I got fun. So I think that book is great. You can see more artwork here. It's very silly. It's really fantastic. Orbo is a weirdo. That is his real name legally. Then we have a early reader. This is Story of Gumlet the Wizard, the first chapter book by Adam Rex. So this is about a little noodlehead of a wizard that he's just enjoying his life. He thinks he thinks he's getting taller, but it's that his hair's growing, but he keeps shrinking himself. Helvetica is his reluctant sidekick, Raven, who's also narrating the book, and she really finds him annoying, but she also feels that she really wants to, defend him. And then he has Butterscotch, who is a ghost that lives in his hair. It's very silly. It's great for early readers. It's an excellent start for kids learning to read, and it's very funny. And even adults will enjoy it. I loved reading this book so much. And you can see it's great artwork throughout because Adam Rex is the best. And then last but not least, we have the newest from Donna Barbara Higuera, who if you're familiar with young adult middle grade books, she is the winner of the Pura Belpré Award and the Newbery Medal for her book Las Quintista, which is this great like folklore science fiction mashup. So her new book, Alebrijes, is amazing. And when we're done with this, I'm gonna show you the cover before we're done because it's best part of the book. So this is about 400 years in the future. Earth is a barren wasteland. There's few humans left, and there's just one city, Pocatello, and it has like class systems. So the leaders are just awful. And after this 13-year-old boy is exiled after taking the fall for his sister stealing fruit, his consciousness is put into a alebrije, which is a small mechanical animal. And it's like almost a robot, except he's in it. And he gets sent out and he discovers that all of these mutant monsters and wastelands and everything they've been told about is not real. In fact, it's not terrible up there. And he finds other alebrijes and they decide to go back to the city and rescue the lower class, rescue these people that are going to be killed by the cabal. I guess you could say cabal, by the leaders. And it's really amazing. It's super heartfelt. It's very imaginative. And it does connect to Las Quintista, which is too hard to explain right here, right now. But it's great. It's wonderful. You don't have to provide Las Quintista, but it's an absolutely wonderful book, and I highly recommend it. And I really see a lot for this one. I'm going to come back to you and show you this really cool, so this is the cover, and you can see it's die cut. So it has this super cute, I'm like, how do I do things? So yeah, super cool. And it's like a really solid deck. And it's very neat. And that is it from me. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you, Emily. What a great list. I have found some things that I clearly need, and I clearly need to read that picture book at Storytime this week. So thank you for that. Next up will be Mike Katz. He works for the Ingram Content Group, representing lots of great publishers there. And I'm going to be sharing screen for him to show some of his titles that he's speaking about.
Thank you, Rachel, and thanks to everyone who's on the Zoom call. This is just way too much fun, especially from sitting in my comfort of my house, even though I have a really badly sprained knee and I'm in a little bit of pain, but hopefully it doesn't show. Ingram Content Group is a distributor. We are a distributor of something close to 200 publishers, including Publishers Group West, Two Rivers Distribution, and Ingram Academic. So we have any number of different publishers. The first three books are three pieces of fiction from Grove Atlantic, probably one of our leading publishers. I've been presenting the first two of these books together and kind of with the same idea that I love reading short stories. But often when I have read a short story or read short story collection, 2-3 weeks later, I've forgotten the short stories. The next two books are short story collections that you will find very hard to forget. The first one is from Jeanette Winterson, Night Side of the River. Now, Jeanette Winterson is known for quirky, offbeat, very intelligent, and often very humorous fiction and nonfiction. Recently, she updated the Frankenstein myth with a book called Frankenstein. She's also done a collection of stories for Christmas called Christmas Days. If you want an offbeat collection of Christmas stories, that's a good one. 12 Bites is a collection of her essays. And what she's really been doing in her last few books is looking at the future of humanity in terms of what will we become. And in the ghost story collection, Night Side of the River, and I understand that, this is great for Halloween, but I am the sort of person who would love to get a ghost story collection for Christmas. She ties in with the future of our kind, connected with AIs, with apps. Some of these stories are so amazingly, peculiarly strange that they're really you really want to read them over and over again. In one case, there's a woman who decides that she wants to become her avatar, which is a much more ideal future than she has on Earth as an actual person. Highly recommended, very enjoyable stories. The next collection, and this is probably, I don't need to even tell most of you, Claire Keegan, So Late in the Day. This is the third of her volumes. And Rachel, if you look at that image there, right below it, yeah, look at that first, that's it, hit that one. These are the three books in this series. Small Things Like These, Foster, So Late, and now the new one, So Late in the Day. Small Things Like These is a wonderful, wonderful novella. Foster, again, is almost like a long short story. Again, another wonderful story. And So Late in the Day is the new collection of three stories. One of the stories, Antarctica, was in an earlier collection of hers, slightly revamped in this one. She's very good. I'm not even sure how I can describe how her stories stick with you, but she really manages to pick out those aspects of the human condition, and you look at it at humans and you look at relationships in a totally different way. Highly recommend it, and they will look great together on anyone's shelf. I have all three of them together as we speak. Next, another piece of fiction from Grove Atlantic. This is Orbital, Samantha Harvey. 6 astronauts on their final journey around Earth as they reminisce on the human condition. This is an in-house favorite. Let me describe, I'm going to read a quote from one of my fellow reps because it so wonderfully describes what this book is all about. Staggeringly beautiful, unearthly prose, Harvey's lyrical descriptions of the planet from low orbit form a picture and a perspective as real and wondrous as any this earthbound reader can imagine. A literary love letter to Earth, told through 16 orbits, each forming a chapter in the isolated yet deeply intertwined lives of 6 astronauts, humans with a godly view. Highly recommended. It's coming out probably at the middle of November. Now we switch gears a little bit to 2 graphic novels. Now, my publishers are not always known for the graphic novels, but they've really outdone themselves this season. First off, My Brilliant Friend. This obviously is the graphic novel version of Elena Ferrante's classic My Brilliant Friend. She's also, of course, well known for the Napolitano series. Beautifully abridged, beautifully illustrated. These are some of the images there. Really nice job with it. And a very good price point, $26. I think an excellent holiday gift for any Ferrante fan, and there are a lot of Ferrante fans out there. Switching gears a little bit to another graphic novel, Haruki Murakami's manga stories. This is the first of a scheduled 3-volume series of many of Murakami's short stories done as a graphic novel. Now, Tuttle is publisher, and Tuttle, as some of you might know, is one of the leading American publishers of books of Far Eastern interest, especially Japanese and Chinese, also Philippine and other Asian countries. They are located right up the road from Northshire in Rutland, Vermont. This, again, an excellent collection, $19.99 price, really well done, a lot of fun. I have the sneaky feeling we may be out of stock at the moment, but soon they'll be back, and I'm pretty certain that Northshire has ordered it and has it in stock. There we go, our second graphic novel. Next, let's switch gears again. Publishers Group West and Two Rivers are well known for their nature books. Milkweed, of course, is one of our most important publishers. Braiding Sweetgrass is their big bestseller. The Comfort of Crows, A Backyard Year by Margaret Renkl. Her first book, Late Migrations, which is a wonderful collection of nature essays, was published by Milkweed. This one is published by a Two Rivers publisher, Spiegel and Grau. She switched publishers. But Margaret Renkl, these illustrations cover 52 weeks of a year, and her, she journeys through the year, beautifully looking at nature and the wonders around her home. The illustrations are from her brother, Billy Renkl, who also did the illustrations on Late Migration. Renkel's also done the collection Graceland, which is her collection of columns from the New York Times. She's a regular columnist at the New York Times. Another excellent nature writer, this again from Milkweed, is Elizabeth Rush. Elizabeth Rush was a National Book Award finalist for her book Rising, about climate change and those individuals most at risk from climate change. Her new book, Quickening, charts or surveys several months that Elizabeth spent on a expedition to Antarctica to look at the ice shelves as they're slowly deteriorating. What Rush does beautifully, even though she writes very well about science, she is beautifully captures what it's like for those individuals most at risk of climate change and the rising. She did that. Or in this case, those researchers and people working on the boat that are closest to what's going on in our world. Highly recommended. That's The Quickening. Next book on down. This is a really cute little gift book. Just came out. The Curious World of Seahorses. Paper overboard with great illustrations in it. Everything you wanted to know about seahorses. One of the world's strangest creatures. Just unique. We always, one of the things that is so funny about them that they're just terrible, terrible swimmers, and yet they survived and been surviving for millennia. This makes a very nice little gift book, and even if you're have no interest in jumping in the water and swimming with the seahorses, well, this book will take the place of that. Next, The Last Island. This is another one of our publishers from Two Rivers, David R. Godine. They're out of Boston, so it's a New England publisher here. The Last Island is North Sentinel Island and the Ottoman Island chain in the Indian Ocean. And the tribes that live to this island are some of the most remote tribes, or at least the most insulated from modernity on Earth. Just a couple of years ago, an American missionary took his kayak and his Bible, went to the island, and was promptly murdered by these tribesmen. But Adam Goodhart spent 20 years ago, went to the island, came back recently with these great pictures. The best way to look at this is the end of the age of discovery. These are the last of the tribes in this world that have avoided modernity. Really wonderful, and the text is fabulous. Next, Iceland Summer. I love a good piece of travel literature, and we have a couple on that I'm going to present today. Kurt Caswell and a friend decided to traverse the ring road around Iceland, fortified with a fermented drink from Iceland and some very cool food items. This shows them around the ring road, great illustrations in it. It's a paperback original, beautifully done. And if you can't get to Iceland in the foreseeable future, this is the next best alternative. Keeping with travel literature, the next book is The Passenger, Mediterranean. This is a series that Europa puts out, a travel series. Get a load of that cover illustration, and that'll just leap off the shelf to you. The Passenger series is covered any number of different locations, including Greece, Rome, Ireland, Japan, and now we're looking at the Mediterranean. Great essays in it. It's a great format, 9 inches by 6 inches, a little bit longer than and narrower than most books. Again, great book for the armchair traveler. Turning to a couple of kids books, children's books. I love selling children's books. This fall season alone, I had something like 350 children's titles to sell. The Book Cook is a nice holiday book. A brother and sister on Christmas Eve realize that they do not have a present for their mom. They go out into the snowstorm and they're attracted by this beautiful smells coming from a bakery, but it's not your normal bakery. It's a bakery that cooks books. And they're able to create a book with a specific story just for their mom. And if you look at, I think, the next to last illustration, there's a great shot of the two of them and their mother. Right, that's it, right there, reading the book that they have created. Next, another great little children's book, The New Bicycle. This is a magical, surrealistic voyage by a little girl on her bike as she circumvents the world. And at one point, she has to bring an elephant back to the savannah. Very nice illustrations. Those great two-dimensional houses are very cool. Really nicely done. This is a Belgian publisher called Clavis, and they do just a wonderful job with any number of their children's books. And then on the next one, another children's book, The Imaginary Alphabet. Now, what I would do is, Rachel, go to I on the inside pages. This is a great alphabet book. Get a load of I. Not only are the illustrations just magical, but the text is very funny. Inspired iguanas improvising on ice. And now you can look at the next one for J. Jumping jackrabbits juggling jars. It is oversized. If you look at, there's a shot of a product shot of a little girl reading the book at the end of these images. It'll give you an idea of the size of the book, and it's just nicely done. There she is. There, that's how big the book is. It is beautiful. Probably my favorite children's book on this list. And I think lastly, I wanted to just a little shout out for Chiltern Publishing. They do any number of classics, both children and adult classics. I know that Northshire carries them. They're beautifully put together. They often come with matching notebooks, journals, nicely done. I know there's a whole spinner of various classics that Northshire has, and this is one of them. Lastly, this is not on the list anywhere. There is a book called Go as a River. And of course, my image is not up here, so you can't quite see me right now. But Go as a River by, here we go, by Shelley Reed. I have a store in Connecticut, a small store that has hand sold 140 copies of this book in hardcover. I recommended it to her, but I had never read it. My wife had read it and liked it a lot. I am almost 2/3 of the way through the book, and I feel that really, possibly the best book I've read this year. A great story of a woman making her way on her own, making her way even though the men around her have all failed in one shape or form. And anyway, that is my time is up, and thanks for listening to me, and I hope you'll get some good books and good ideas out of all this.
Thank you, Mike. What was the title of that last one again?
Go as a River, Shelley Reed. Set in 1940s to early 1950s, and the cover is a peach. Her family runs a peach farm in a town that will soon be underwater because they're building a reservoir.
Cool. Very cool. Thank you.
Phenomenal book. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thanks to everybody.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mike. That was terrific. And now, last but certainly not least, is Michael Kindness, who is one of our sales reps for Penguin Random House. So, Michael, take it away.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us all and listening to everything we have to say. I'm just going to share my screen here, make sure that everyone can see that. All right. So my first three titles are all nonfiction, all memoir/biographies. Up first is Up Home, One Girl's Journey by Ruth Simmons. Born in 1945, Ruth Simmons grew up the 12th child of sharecroppers. Her first home had no running water, no electricity to light the too crowded rooms, and no books to read. Yet despite this, Simmons would become one of America's preeminent educators, the former president of Smith College and Brown University, and now the outgoing president of Prairie View A&M, Texas's oldest historically Black college or university. For decades, Simmons has inspired generations of students as she herself made history. In this book, she takes us back to the town she grew up in, Grapeland, Texas, to meet her mother, who managed to feed her large family with often nothing in the pantry. Her father, who refused to let racial and economic injustice crush his youngest daughter's dreams. Her brothers and sisters, and the attentive teachers who welcomed Ruth into the classroom, guiding her to a future she could hardly imagine as a child. Next up is Breaking Through My Life in Science by Catalin Carico. She also grew up very impoverished in a small one-room home in post-war communist Hungary. Also no running water. She was the daughter of a butcher, and she saw around her all of nature, all of science, all of the wonders of the world, and she knew she wanted to be a scientist. She eventually made it to the United States as a postdoctoral fellow in 1985, and she worked for a long time in obscurity in basement labs with cockroaches and bosses that would, threatened deportation, and just, did not think she was doing anything important. Despite all those setbacks, she never wavered in her belief that an underappreciated molecule called messenger RNA could change the world. She believed that someday mRNA would transform ordinary cells into tiny factories capable of producing their own medicines on demand. Now, some of you may have already realized mRNA is the reason that we have COVID vaccines. And now scientists everywhere are looking to mRNA research for cures for HIV, the flu, and other infectious diseases. Breaking Through isn't just the story of an extraordinary woman, it's an indictment of closed mind thinking and a testament to one woman's commitment to laboring in obscurity, knowing she might never be recognized. Thankfully, she was recognized. You may have recognized her name. Last week, she and her research partner were awarded the Nobel Prize in Medicine for their work in mRNA research. So it's wonderful to see someone who worked so hard, thinking she might never be known, to get such an amazing prize and to see her work recognized in such a way. The Sisterhood, The Secret Women of the CIA by Liza Mundy. Liza Mundy is a best-selling author. She wrote Code Girls, which some of you may remember. Created in the aftermath of World War II, the CIA relied on women even as it had attempted to channel their talents and keep them down. Women sent cables, made dead drops, and maintained the agency's secrets. Despite discrimination, women who started as clerks, secretaries, or unpaid spouses rose to become some of the CIA's shrewdest operatives. Of course, in those days, people didn't think women were important. And so they could go and be in places that male spies might have been caught. So places like Bonn, Geneva, and Moscow, they stole secrets from right under the noses of their KGB counterparts. Back at headquarters, women built the CIA's critical archives, first by hand and then by the new technology of computers. They noticed things that men at the top didn't see. After the 9/11 attacks, more women joined the agency, and they showed that data analysis would be crucial to the post 9/11 security landscape, an effort that culminated in the CIA's successful efforts to track down bin Laden. So one thing that Liza Mundy always does really well is her research. And in this case, she was actually able to speak to a large number of key players who've never gone on the record before, including active CIA employees. Next up, three works of fiction that are all fantastic in their own way. If you get any newsletter from Northshire, you probably already know about Northwoods. In my 23 years of selling books, I have never had as many booksellers read and love a book as Northwoods. And I think there were at least 4 of them at Northshire. Northwoods is the story of, it starts 400 years ago with this Puritan couple who aren't meant to be in love, but they are in love. So they run away from their community and build a small cabin in the woods. Over the next 400 years and beyond, we see everyone who lives in that cabin, from an English soldier who abandons the battlefields to devote himself to apples, 2 spinster twins who survive war and famine only to succumb to envy and desire, a crime reporter who unearths a body. And that section is written almost like noir or like true crime. Each section, there are 12 sections, each for one each for every month of the year. They're written in different ways. One is a scientific exploration of this beetle that is trying to mate. One is the notes of a psychiatrist and on this one particular patient. And it sounds like the book would be fragmented and not hold together really well, but it reads like one cohesive story. There are elements that move throughout all 12 pieces. It's just honestly one of the best books I've ever read. It's really incredibly wonderful. And I don't think I actually mentioned the North Woods are the northwestern part of Massachusetts, so very close to Vermont. Chuck Wendig, Black River Orchard. This is a spooky book, and October is a perfect time to read creepy, unsettling books. And in this particular book, it's set in the town of Harrow. It's autumn. There's an orchard with 7 very unusual trees. Each of those trees give off these apples that are strange and beautiful, and the skin is so deep, dark red that it's almost black. People can't get enough of these apples. When they eat them, they feel more like themselves, stronger, more powerful, more sure of themselves. And it gets to a point where they will do anything to get another apple. And you quickly find out that it's not just the roots of the trees that are buried under the town, but a lot of secrets. Chuck Wendig has been called Stephen King for the Stranger Things generation. I think that's a very apt description. He's just really good at writing unsettling books. Day by Michael Cunningham, who many of you may know from The Hours. This is his first novel in 10 years, and it takes place on April 5th in 2019, 2020, and 2021. So the entire book takes place on 3 days, the same day on 3 consecutive years. And it follows this family, a husband and wife, their 2 children, and the wife's brother, who is sort of aimless and can't really make his way in the world. He's just broken up with his most recent boyfriend. He is spending all of his time on Instagram with this fictitious person that he's created, this, basically ultimate version of himself. And the family is starting to fracture. And then, as you might imagine, in April of 2020, the world is in lockdown. The family is stuck together, except for the brother, who is in a cabin in Iceland and is trapped there, which I honestly wouldn't mind being trapped in Iceland. But the family just starts to fracture even more. The young daughter is a bit of a germphobe, and as you might imagine, in the age of COVID, is very upset about everything. And then in April 2021, you get the story of what happened to them over that previous year. Michael Cunningham, the story's short. It's told very simply, but you come out of it knowing all 5 of those characters like you probably wouldn't know characters in other books. He just really, really gets everybody. It's perfect. Let's see, I better move along more quickly. The Wine and Cheese Board deck. So this is a selection of 50 cards that give you recipes for cheese boards and other kinds of boards and displays of food that you can put out for family and friends, and wine to go with it. Covers all kinds of wine, and each card includes substitutions that you can do for the food, and wines under $25. So no matter your budget, you can put together something great. 2 cookbooks. The World Central Kitchen by Jose Andres. You may have heard of the World Central Kitchen. This is an organization that goes to places that are in turmoil, whether that's because of war, invasion. Ukraine was a place that they have spent a lot of time. Natural disasters. They go and they cook for the people who are affected by these troubles. And this is a collection of recipes from around the world, from people that have worked with the organization, including some celebrity chefs like Tyler Florence, Emeril Lagasse, Guy Fieri, and then also some famous people who have worked with the organization, like Michelle Obama, whose recipe for breakfast tacos is in here, and Meghan Markle's lemon olive oil cake. So in addition to the recipes, you get stories of the places that they've been, the work that they've done, and all of the proceeds from this book go back to World Central Kitchen. Snacking Bakes by Yassi Arafi. Her book, this is Snacking Bakes. Snacking Cakes came out 2 years ago when everyone was home and was baking. And that was things that could be made with one bowl, recipes or ingredients you probably already had on hand. And Snacking Bakes takes that premise from Snacking Cakes and basically goes through cookies and bars and some more cakes as well, just to make you a little bit hungry. Here are some of the recipes you'll find in here: blueberry cornmeal cookies, banana brownie cookies, pumpkin chocolate chip bars, chocolate chip snickerdoodle cake, spiced applesauce crumb cake, brown sugar peach cake. I'm getting hungry just saying some of these things, but again, these are things that can be made, almost all of them, in under an hour, in one bowl with ingredients you probably already have on hand. Overlooked is from the New York Times. Since 1851, the New York Times has published thousands of obituaries for heads of state, celebrities, scientists, athletes. There's even one for the person who invented the sock puppet. But until recently, only a fraction of the Times obits chronicled the lives of women or people of color. The vast majority tell the lives of men, mostly white men. In 2018, the New York Times started a column in the obituary section called Overlooked, where they looked back over the previous 170 years for people who were important, whether they were famous and important or important and unknown, and gave them the obituaries that they should have had when they passed away. These are people, women, BIPOC and LGBTQIA figures, people with disabilities. Some of the people include Sylvia Plath, Alan Turing. These are people who did not get obituaries in the New York Times when they died. And then lesser known people like Terry Rogers, a transgender ventriloquist and magician, Stella Young, a disabled comedian. These overlooked figures might have lived in different times and had different experiences, but they were all ambitious and creative and used their imaginations to invent, innovate, and change the world. There's tons of photographs. This might seem like a morbid book to give as a gift. This doesn't come out till November 14th. But think of it as like a collection of small personal histories. And at the same time, you're learning your sort of an overarching history of the country. How to win at chess. Levi Rosman is one of the most popular chess instructors online. He has, sorry, I need to look this up, 1.7 million YouTube subscribers, and his videos have over 490 million views. Those stats are probably a couple months old, so it's probably a lot more than that. But this is his first book, and it covers, the first half is for beginners and teaches openings, endings, tactics, and strategies. And the second half builds on those core skills for more experienced players. There's over 500 instructional diagrams of gameplay, and every chapter has multiple QR codes that you can use to go to exclusive instructional videos. This is a smallish hardcover. It's very thick, and it's a great gift for anyone who's just learning chess or has always said that they wanted to learn chess. And then lastly, something a little fun for everybody, Victorian parlor games. This is a collection of 50 cards that are all these games that were played by Victorians in their parlors. And some of them are things you might have heard of before, like Two Truths and a Lie, and something they called Fictionary, which we know as the board game Balderdash. And there are things that you will be reading through and you'll be like, oh, that's where that board game came from. But then there are things that you will probably have never heard of, like Grandmother's Trunk or Pass the Slipper. So they're all incredibly simple to play. You usually just need the card to tell you what to do. You might need a deck of cards, you might need a pad and a pencil, but they're all things that you can easily do with family and friends. I think it makes a great gift. And it's just, they're all fun. And as you can see, it's really beautifully illustrated as well. And that's my last title. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael. I clearly need that Victorian parlor games set so badly. Sounds amazing. Thank you also to Emily and Mike for your terrific lists. Lots of amazing books there. I know that my to-read pile has gotten massive. Audience, thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you found some great books to read. You have the blog post that we put in the chat earlier and is also in the confirmation email that you got with the Zoom link for tonight. So you can join us there, and you can find all of these great items and books at northshire.com. Thank you all so much, everybody, and have a great rest of your night.